Thank you very, very much. And let me say good afternoon. It is great to be a guest of the Baton Rouge Press Club. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be with you once again to discuss some of the important things that are happening at and issues facing LSU as we wrap up our fall semester and look ahead to spring 2021. I'm going to take a few minutes and I'm going to talk about our COVID response, our plans for the spring semester, and all the positive things that have happened during these unprecedented times. But I want to start our conversation by talking about the actions that we're taking in relation to our alleged mishandling of student reports of sexual assault and sexual violence. I'm sad that we may have failed even a single student who reached out to us after being a victim of sexual assault or violence or any violation of Title IX. It's not acceptable. As interim president, it's my responsibility to right any wrongs that have occurred. I accept and will fulfill that responsibility as long as I am in this office. As the father of 4 children, including 3 daughters, this issue has personal significance. I want to applaud and admire the incredible courage of the victims who have come forward to tell their stories. I can only imagine how difficult that has been for them. Their courage provides me with even greater determination to do better going forward. So how do we make sure that we right past wrongs and do better in the future? As you know, we've hired Hush Blackwell to conduct an independent investigation of our handling of sexual assault and abuse cases, including those mentioned in recent media reports and other cases as well. We have met with some lawyers from Hush Blackwell. We have over the weekend sent them 60 files to review, and we anticipate that they will begin interviews this week. Hush Blackwell will also undertake a comprehensive review of our Title IX reporting process, including, most importantly, our implementation of those policies. Their review should be complete in February, and the findings will then be made public. But that doesn't mean that we are standing still in the meantime. We're already working to build initiatives and explore immediate changes that we can implement before we have the full Hush Blackwell report. We have and will continue to meet with our student leaders on campus to hear more about their experiences and perspectives, and we have requested feedback from faculty and staff about our current Title IX reporting and enforcement. This information will help us identify trends and challenges faced by our students so that we can make reporting assaults as straightforward a process as possible, provide better and more sensitive support to victims, and find ways to prevent assault from happening in the first place. Also, we're asking anyone who might have feedback about LSU's handling of sexual violence cases to send their information to title9feedback@lsu.edu. I have re-emphasized to university leadership that every LSU employee is required to report knowledge of a sexual assault to the Title IX office, with extremely limited exceptions for those few individuals who hold designated confidential roles. We want to make sure that everyone at LSU clearly understands the requirement to report and how to do so. Our athletics director, Scott Woodward, has done the same with athletic staff. We reinforced this message during our latest faculty and staff forum last week. Mandatory campus-wide Title IX training is required of all employees by December 31st. That said, we also expect to improve our Title IX training and make it more robust for everyone going forward. We're also talking with the Baton Rouge Sexual Trauma Awareness and Response Center to solicit their expertise. And just this morning, they have sent us a proposal as to how we can improve not only our compliance, but how we can improve our culture and how we can change the mindset that led to the incidents that we've all read about, or in your case, written about. We've also met with leaders of several student organizations devoted to assault prevention and victims' rights and advocacy, and will continue to do so. Now, I know there have been those who have called for more immediate punitive action. We hear you loudly and clearly, and we feel the same need to take action where action is required. However, this is an extremely serious, complicated, and critically important issue, and we are going to take the time to get it right. That means we will give Hush Blackwell the opportunity to conduct their review. And when they have, we will not hesitate to take swift and appropriate action if the findings warrant it. In the meantime, if we, or they uncover additional facts that warrant action, we will take it at that time. We'll also continue to investigate every report of sexual abuse or sexual violence, and we will hold those responsible accountable. We're taking this situation to heart. We're committed to achieving justice and to improving. We are also going to be as transparent as possible as we work and move forward. I know you'll have questions about this at the end of my talk, but before we get to those questions, I want to shift to my other topics and hope you'll stick with me. Now, if you will recall, when I last addressed the Baton Rouge Press Club in April, it was the very first virtual meeting in this group's 51-year history. Now, I don't know if any of us at that time thought that we'd still be meeting virtually 8 months later, but if 2020 has proven anything, it's that we must confront the challenges we're presented with and find ways to adapt, overcome, and continue to work toward a better future. And that's exactly what we've been doing at LSU throughout this very turbulent year. Early on in the pandemic, we capitalized on the opportunity to leverage our unique resources and research capabilities at the 8 institutions in our LSU family to be a leader in Louisiana's COVID fight. From treating patients on the front lines and developing new testing methods to establishing training centers, manufacturing PPE, and our continued work on treatments and vaccine, we've shown the immeasurable value of a statewide flagship research university that includes 2 health science centers and a world-renowned biomedical research center. After we were forced to close our campuses on short notice in March, we adjusted and completed the final stretch of our spring semester and our summer semester remotely, throughout which we were planning for reopening our campuses in the fall. Because we were confident in the planning that we had done, we entered the fall semester with optimism. But I will be honest with you, because there are things that were just out of our control, we admittedly had some trepidation. While this has not been a perfect academic semester, we have gotten through it, and it has been as successful as any of us could have hoped, given the unprecedented circumstances. Our health and safety procedures helped us largely keep the COVID situation in check on campus. We've kept our students on track academically, and we're on pace to finish the semester with no major interruptions to our academic calendar. Now, certainly our planning helped, but the main reason our plans worked was because our campus community took the situation very, very seriously. So I'm incredibly grateful to our students, our faculty, and our staff who have really stepped up this semester and have been vigilant about adhering to our safety and health protocols. Have we had breaches? Absolutely. We can't totally control human behavior, but most folks have been fantastic in their commitment to doing the right thing. Something else that sets us apart from almost every other university is the record enrollment, retention, and graduation rates that we achieved. We're now more populous and more diverse than we have ever been in our 160-year history. We also saw significant enrollment increases in Shreveport, Alexandria, and Eunice. This would have been an incredible accomplishment in any year, but to have achieved it during a pandemic and amidst a trend in recent years of declining enrollment at universities across the country is truly phenomenal. It is a testament to our enrollment management team, and it is a testament to everyone on campus because we are all recruiters. Now, the recent news about vaccines is very encouraging, and I know that we're all hopeful that we'll be getting a vaccine soon, but the concomitant spike in COVID cases that we've seen across the country serves as a most sobering reminder that this pandemic is far from over and we cannot afford to get complacent. I will admit, I am tired of the pandemic. You're tired of the pandemic. Everyone is tired by the pandemic, but the pandemic is not tired of us. We know that we will still be navigating COVID into the spring semester. And that means that we'll be operating under many of the same health and safety protocols we implemented during the fall. We will continue wearing our masks, remaining as physically distant as possible. And I am alone in my office, except for all of you virtually, or I would be wearing my mask, coughing into our elbows, washing our hands, using our daily symptom tracker, and quarantining and isolating if necessary. We will continue to offer COVID testing on campus, and we will encourage everyone to get tested at least on a monthly basis. And we will continue to conduct the wastewater testing in our buildings that has been an extremely effective tool for monitoring containing the virus on our campus. Wastewater testing has been a lifesaver for us. Now, academically, we would love to return to 100% in-person learning again, but it is still not safe to do so. We're going to get there eventually, but in the meantime, we're planning to deliver approximately half of our spring semester classes in person or in a hybrid fashion. 71% of the classes that are online, that's 71% of the 50% that are online, will be delivered in real time. And we're going to urge students, if it's delivered in real time, even if it's virtual, go to the class on time. It'll help you organize your lives. It's better than watching it later. We're going to remain as flexible as we can, but we're not going to jeopardize the health and well-being of our campus community or our ability to remain open. Safety will continue to be our guidepost. Now, as I emphasized at the outset, when discussing sexual assault and violence, the pandemic has not been the only major challenge we faced in 2020. During the year, we have confronted a number of critically important issues that have long stained the soul of virtually every university and every community in our nation. Racism and racial injustice, sexual assault and violence, and hazing. These are problems that we will address. We have to strive to be leaders in creating safe, diverse, respectful, sensitive campus spaces and cultures. Finding solutions that affect real and lasting change is not a sprint, it's a marathon. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't make real progress in the short term. We will. We can and we will. Every step is another step forward, but it takes a lot of steps to finish the job. And there aren't any shortcuts along the way. There are breakthroughs, but with each breakthrough, we must continue to push forward. So we're taking a similar approach and bringing the same energy to the Title IX situation and the hazing situation that we brought to our work on inclusivity, equity, and diversity. When the call for a national reckoning on racial injustice reverberated across our country and our campus this past summer, we took the opportunity to accelerate our work on the diversity and inclusion roadmap that began in summer 2019. And we have made some really significant progress. Now, I understand that the removal of a name from a building generates the most headlines, but there's a lot more work being done on this front that doesn't receive as much media attention. And I'd like to address just a few of those efforts. At an inclusion, equity, and diversity leadership retreat that we convened in June, we formed 9 subcommittees composed of students, faculty, staff, and alumni, and they've been working to implement the roadmap. These subcommittees are addressing areas of our roadmap relating to faculty, staff, student, health and wellness, academics, recruiting, community building, communications, and physical environment. We're working on a comprehensive report that will detail the accomplishments and progress that they've made so far, so stay tuned. We've also updated our diversity statement, and we expect to receive recommendations from our Building Name Evaluation Committee in the near future. Additionally, we convened a half-day leadership summit with deans, vice presidents, and academic chairs to work to create search committees that will effectively achieve our critical goals of increasing diversity and cultural competency in our faculty. Now, as you also know, we experienced some tragic incidents on and off campus this fall related to hazing. These horrific events are tremendously painful, and we will not tolerate the behavior that gave rise to them. We have suspended one fraternity as we investigate the incidents further, and as we move forward, we will not hesitate to hold any person or any organization accountable if we find that they've engaged in hazing activities. Now, unfortunately, as I said, sexual assault, racial injustice, and hazing are not exclusive to our campus. But at LSU, we do not want to be a place where they continue to be a problem. We want to be a place where we confront the issues head on and work to find effective solutions that make our campus a safer and more equitable place for everyone. And I'm confident that working together, we will do just that. Now, I'd like to shift to another very serious issue that LSU and most universities across the country are grappling with right now. And that's the budget challenges that we face due to the pandemic. We're fortunate that we have been able to increase enrollment, which is particularly important since our funding from the state has declined in recent years. But we can't possibly offset all our financial losses due to the pandemic with added revenue from enrollment increases. While we're very grateful for the financial support we received through the CARES Act this past spring and from our state legislatures during the session and the second special session, the unfortunate reality is that the roughly $13.5 million from the CARES Act that we received this summer doesn't come close to covering our COVID costs or revenue losses. Simply put, our ability to continue operating without any major cuts hinges on securing an additional COVID relief package from Congress. Our overall financial losses are a great concern, but the serious financial and operational disruption on our overall research and development enterprise are even more alarming. As our state's flagship university, research is part of our DNA. It's the very thing that differentiates us from every other university in the state. It's our research that has allowed us to be a leader in our state's COVID fight. And it's our research that will help us be a leader in Louisiana's economic recovery from the pandemic. Now, as I seek investment in LSU, I should quickly mention just a few of our recent research successes that highlight the incredible expertise of our LSU faculty, the educational opportunities they create, and the way our research creates jobs and leads to practical solutions for some of our states and regions' most pressing problems. Now, at our flagship in Baton Rouge, we've had at least 6 major grants exceeding $9 million this year. I'll highlight 2 of them. An interdisciplinary team of LSU faculty has secured a $10.8 million award from the National Institutes of Health to continue and to expand the important work they've been doing since 2009 to protect communities from dangerous pollution from hazardous waste sites through the Superfund Research Program. A large part of the LSU Superfund Research Program is educating future scientists and engineers, and the team has thus far trained over 30 graduate students and postdoctoral fellows in chemistry, physics, environmental sciences, biological and biomedical sciences, and pharmacology. The U.S. Department of Defense has also turned to LSU experts to improve national security by helping make military operations better prepared and more resilient to climate-induced hazards, with more than $9.3 million in funding over the next 4 years. This research focuses on finding solutions to protect military operations, personnel, and infrastructure from the impact of flooding, subsidence, and rising seas. Moving off the flagship campus, but staying in Baton Rouge, the Ag Center received $3 million from the Rice Research Board to help fund Ag Center research, including $500,000 for an endowed super chair. And the Louisiana Soybean and Grain Research and Promotion Board is reviewing proposals for an additional $1.5 million in Ag Center research projects. The Pennington Biomedical Research Center, right there on Perkins Road, and the Louisiana Clinical and Translational Science Center, that's LaCats, have received a $1.8 million award from the National Institutes of Health as part of Operation Warp Speed. The funding will be used to address barriers to COVID-19 testing in Louisiana's underserved Black communities and to find ways to increase testing. Meanwhile, Pennington's global survey study on COVID-19 lockdown's effect on our lifestyle garnered attention worldwide. Media outlets in 20 countries generated 132 articles on the study, reaching an estimated 262 million people, including a story in the New York Times on Friday. Now, the reason I mention these awards is because they are great examples of research in action with practical applications. This is research that helps create jobs, protects our state's precious natural resources, assists our nation's military, mitigates the risk of disasters, both natural and man-made, improves the lives of Louisianians, and benefits the industries that do business here. As our state's flagship university, we have the expertise and ability to attract these great grants and conduct this incredibly important research. But our ability to continue to do so will be hampered without additional funding relief to help us offset our COVID-related losses. Now, I know I've covered a lot of ground. I know we didn't get lunch. This is my second time with you, and I haven't eaten yet. So hopefully, Jim, you'll have me back once and have lunch. And I know I've covered a lot of ground that otherwise would have been lunch. But everything I'm talking about really boils down to three things: challenges, opportunities, and achievement. And that's not a coincidence, because they are all directly related. All of us are confronted with great challenges in our personal and our professional lives. No one is immune to adversity. But if you're an optimist, and I am an optimist, then you tend to see challenging situations as unique opportunities to make significant and much needed improvements. And if you've got the courage and the resolve to put in the hard work that it takes to make significant and meaningful change, as we do at LSU, then you'll usually find that your greatest achievements were a direct result of your greatest challenges. Yeah, 2020 has been an extremely challenging year, but there have also been some incredible successes. We know we're going to continue to face great challenges in the year ahead. In confronting them, we will continue to dedicate ourselves to making the most of every opportunity we have to achieve even greater success and goals in 2021. Thanks again for letting me speak with all of you today. And now I would be happy to take any questions that you may have.
Mr. President, when you say you will hold those responsible accountable for their actions when the report is issued, what does that mean?
I think, Jim, it means that we will assess what, if any, problems or violations of policy there may have been, how serious those breaches may have been, and the appropriate sanction, if any, that's justified by the nature of the violation, the seriousness of the violation, and any potential ramifications of the violation.
As president, will you use your authority to dismiss people if necessary?
Yes, if necessary, I will indeed.
Will you make these decisions in consultation with others? For example, some of the allegations involve the athletic department. Will you consult with the athletic director, or will you do this unilaterally?
You know, Jim, I usually don't do things unilaterally. So I will probably consult with those involved, with the supervisors involved in the athletics department. I'll probably consult with Scott Woodward and Stephanie Renfrey. I'll definitely review the Hush Blackwell report. I'm sure that I'll have questions about that report. I'll consult with general counsel. I'll keep the board informed, and I'll consult with my leadership team. I find I make the best decisions about almost anything when I seek input and advice from others.
How concerned are you about the allegations as you know them right now?
You know, I think, Jim, I'm concerned, and I'll go back to what I said at the beginning. If there's one instance of sexual assault or sexual violence or Title IX violation that we mishandled, that's one too many, and I'm concerned about it. If there's one instance where a victim, even if we handled it right, didn't feel like they were treated with sensitivity, or didn't feel that their matter was timely resolved, then that's too many as well. So I would say I'm concerned, and that we are taking all of this very, very seriously.
I'm sure there are other questions for the president, so if you have one, please come forward.
President Galligan, this is Julie O'Donoghue. Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
So you referenced 60 files being sent to Hush Blackwell, and what are these files? Are these Title IX complaints? Are these allegations? I'm a little. How were they identified, and what are they?
Yeah, they are, and obviously I can't discuss individual cases, but they are cases. Well, they're cases that we've read about and heard about. They are also additional files that we sent over to them because we want them to review files beyond those that we have heard about or read about.
Okay, are they files that like other people privately, I know you guys were soliciting, soliciting, I don't know if it's comments, but feedback about the Title IX process? Are these other files that people may have come forward and said that they went through the process and they wanted, some review of? Or are they from a certain timeline? I mean,
yeah, I think they're mostly all from the 2016 to 2018 timeline. I asked my friend Winston DeQueer, General Counsel, he can clarify that. Let me see if he texts me during this. Yeah, they're either Title IX cases or other cases of reports that we have received. I don't believe, Julie, yet any of them come from the hotline that we've set up. I say hotline, email.
okay, and does that take in, there's some of the cases that have been reported in the media, for example, the allegations concerning Darius Geis, and maybe Drake Davis, I'm not remembering at the moment, didn't actually go to the Title IX office, if I'm remembering correctly. So does it also take in those types of cases?
Again, I can't, I don't want to talk about individual cases, but it would take in cases like that. If in fact there was a case that didn't go to Title IX, but we knew about it from some other source, we would include that in the Hush Blackwell package. Did I answer that?
Now, on a college campus, many people have tenure. Some people have contracts. If someone is found culpable in any of this, could those contracts be negated? Could they be fired for cause?
You're asking me a legal question. I think the answer to that legal question is yes, that if there was a violation of law or policy, that would be cause. Now, I'm a tort lawyer, not an employment lawyer, but yes.
Hi, President Galligan. It's Andrea Gallo at The Advocate.
Hello, Andrea.
I wanted to ask, why is nobody currently on administrative leave, or are people on administrative leave as this investigation is handling? Sometimes LSU has put people on administrative leave in the past, like during hazing investigations. So is there a difference here? I wasn't in this position when the initial hazing things went forward, so I'm not sure what went into that decision. But Andrew, we want to get Hush Blackwell's take on an analysis of who knew what, when, what did they do, and what did they not do before we take action. And I think the other day at the board meeting, I said we would wait till we got their report, and we will wait till we get their report unless they make some recommendation to us in the meantime, and then we would take action at that point, or we discovered other facts. But Andrea, I would say if there was anyone in a position where I thought a student was at risk now, we would put them on administrative leave. Okay, and to follow up on that, I mean, there seems to maybe be a conflict of interest in that Verge Osbury is serving on the Presidential Search Committee as you are seeking that position. I mean, how do you resolve that conflict of interest when you're ultimately responsible for what his discipline might be and overseeing this investigation that involves him?
Yeah, Andrea, I will say that as Jim indicated at the outset, I have said that I am currently probably going to be a candidate for this position, but I would not let my candidacy in any way get in the way of this investigation or of achieving justice in this case. That said, I don't pick the search committee. And I've steered away from talking too much about the search and the search committee just because I probably will be a candidate. But I will not allow
that possibility of candidacy to interfere in either the Title IX issues, the racial injustice issues, or the hazing issues. I'm going to do this job for as long as I have it. And if I don't have it for a long time, I'll be back at the Law Center teaching torts and admiralty.
President Galligan, Harrison Golden here with WVLA Channel 33. Question here, I guess, about the LSU football program. Of course, a big year, a lot of ups, a lot of downs for that program, especially as far as the national spotlight is concerned. What would you say about the impression here, at least the very optics, that there was a national article that broke this story in USA Today, but also the fact that LSU football is such a high-profile program? What would you say to the concerns that the delay in us learning about all of this would show some sort of protectionism or just an effort to favoritism toward the program in this taking so long?
Yeah, I would say that there's no protectionism or favoritism going on right now, and that both I and Scott Woodward would say, okay, turn on the lights. We're not favoring anyone. We're going to get to the bottom of this. We're going to get it right. We're going to work together to not only figure out what happened and what action we should take in response to what happened, but we're going to work and the issues go beyond football and they go beyond athletics. That it's the issues that we've read about were not limited to football. They were not limited to athletics. So we, and I'll say it again, we and every other university in the United States, but we're all going to do something about it. We've got to change parts of our culture. I use a reference to how sexual assault, racism, and racial injustice and hazing stain our soul. I don't think they define us, but obviously there's something going on that leads to this stuff happening. And we've got to figure out, as a university, as a society, we've got to figure out what it is. How do we deal with it? It all involves the inviolability of one's own body, correct? It all involves power situations. A lot of it it happens covertly. Or how do we deal with these things to shed light on it? And Harrison, in doing that, we're not going to play favorites with anyone. Thanks for the question.
Thank you very much.
Mr. President, how much of a pall is this casting over the campus right now? You referenced some items that are substantial, that are positive, but right now, much of the attention is on this. How much of a concern and challenge is that for you going forward?
You know, Jim, yeah, I think people are really concerned. We had, I think we ended up having 900 people in our forum last week, and you can feel it. You can feel it through the Zoom that people are hurt, people are angry, people are upset, and people are concerned. So it does create a pall over it. But I think, you know, I'll get back to my challenges and opportunities theme, but because it really is true. But the goal isn't to say, oh yeah, look at all the great stuff that's going on. The goal is to say, look, if this hurts, if this makes us angry, it's like we've done with the racial justices. We can't lose the commitment to get it right and to make a change. So yeah, there's a pall, but I hope it's a pall, to make a terrible pun, it's a pall to action to make positive change.
Liz Sumrall here.
Hi, Liz.
I really like your style. I like that you're results oriented. I enjoyed your presentation last time, very clear and concise and to the point, as well as this presentation. But I was wondering, I was thinking about the diversity goal and wondering in a capsule, is there a target or a goal that you're trying to meet? Because I'm reminded of Chancellor Bud Davis, who loved the university. He embraced its history, and he was such a fine gentleman. And he recruited African Americans and had a goal of trying to make the university more diverse. And it was those very same professors and students that contributed to his leaving the university. And I'm wondering, what is the history, like in a nutshell, of the diverse movement at LSU, and how diverse are we trying to be?
Wow, in a nutshell. And I'm actually the author of a publication, co-author of a publication called Admiralty in a Nutshell. And Liz, that's over 300 pages long. So I'll try to be quicker. I'll try to be quicker on this. As you know, the history is LSU was a segregated institution that only white people could attend until the 50s, when there was the Brown versus Board of Education and the cases that followed on Brown versus Board of Education. Even then, the diversity was slow. The growth in the number of African American students was slow. We did not at LSU immediately embrace Brown. If we followed the letter of the law, we didn't follow the spirit of the law. I came here in 1986 for the first time and taught at the Law Center from 86 to 98. And I would tell you at that time, the Law Center was not a very diverse place. It was not a friendly place. It was not a particularly welcoming place for African Americans. There was conversation at that time that I remember about actually merging the LSU Law Center and the Southern Law Center to try to increase diversity. The numbers did increase slightly, but I like to say that from 86 to 98, when I was here, diversity was tolerated, but it wasn't emphasized. And while I'm in history, I would be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to Dutch Morial, who was the first African American graduate of the LSU Law Center, or to Chief Justice Burnett Johnson, who's retiring, who was one of the first two female graduates of the LSU, African American graduates of the LSU Law Center. So I left. When I came back in 2016, the world had changed. LSU was much more diverse than it had ever been. Diversity was an important initiative. Inclusivity was an important initiative. We began setting records for the number of Black students, Hispanic students, other diverse students in our population. And that's a great thing, and that's continued. But Liz, we have not seen, we have had a cadre of Black African-American faculty members. The percentage of African-American faculty members and staff members is well below the percentage of students of color. So we've got to increase the presence of faculty and staff of color on our campus in significant roles, as teachers, as important administrators, across the entire spectrum. So there's no number goal, but there's a qualitative goal. And the qualitative goal is that we are welcoming to everybody, that we are even more diverse than we are today, and that we are inclusive in that we don't just look at the numbers, we look at the quality of the experience and how we can learn from one another. And on Friday, the board created the first bachelor's program in African and African American studies in any public university in the state. So we are making progress. In a nutshell, that's where we are, with a huge shout out to our students, who have advocated for change, to Derek Riveras, who heads our diversity efforts, and to the provost, Stacey Haney, who is also a huge champion of these efforts. So sorry, Liz, I probably, you said I was succinct, and I bet I wasn't succinct there, but there's a thumbnail history.
It was great. Thank you so much. And I wish you the best in your quest.
Well, we'll see. Thank you. And Liz, I would say this. Let me throw on something with that. I've worked, when I was here from 86 to 98, a bunch of us worked really hard to make the Law Center a more welcoming place. When I got to Tennessee, diversity was a really important issue. When I got to Colby Sawyer College, we were as diverse as the state of New Hampshire. And I said, and New Hampshire is not very diverse. I said, that's not good enough. And we increased the diversity of our student body. So on that subject, I would say that I know the search committee is going to be looking at diversity as a really important factor. All of the leaders of Louisiana State University have been white men. And while I would love to be the next one, if there is an incredibly talented candidate who would be diversity, it would be an honor for me to be succeeded by the first woman president, the first person of color president, or the first woman who is a person of color president, or the first, and I said woman, gay, trans, whatever it is. So thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to go on.
Mr. Galligan, Sydney Kern with WBRZ News. Can you talk about a little bit more about what the spring semester will look like? Will students be required to be tested? And also, do y'all have a plan for vaccinations?
We're not sure yet whether we're going to require students either to be tested before they come back or as they come back. We're looking at a proposal for that right now. Sydney, we did a COVID survey. How did we do? What should we do survey? And a significant number of people really said mandatory testing. So we're taking a look at that. We're also got a proposal in from a working group on how could our testing be even better in the spring. And they're thinking about some sort of sentinel testing every 2 weeks with different people who would be tested that way. We will definitely continue with the wastewater treatment, and we're looking at ways to even improve upon that. So I think those are the issues on testing. And there was another part of your question that what else was you asked about?
About vaccinations.
Thank you. My God, how did I not remember that? That should be at the front of my, Jake Palmer, who's our Emergency Operations Center coordinator, is in almost daily conversations with LDH about what their plans will be for vaccinating. We think maybe a distribution center. Will it just be for, a shot center? Will it just be for our students, or will it be for others as well? I don't know if you remember, Sydney, in the summer, spring and summer, my God, it seems either sometime between yesterday and 20 years ago, the National Guard set up its initial testing site on campus by Alex Box Stadium. Whether it'll be an operation like that for vaccinations, we just don't know yet. Our fingers are crossed that we're knocking wood that the sooner the better. Did I get it, Sydney?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you getting calls about the football team?
I'm not getting too many calls about the football team. Do you mean what aspect of the football team, Jim?
Well, I know we're aware of the misconduct allegations, but the performance on the field has not met expectations, and we know how restless the fandom of LSU can be. I would suspect some might be crying on your shoulder. What's your take on where the team is after 8 games?
Yeah, I'm not getting too much. And what I would say is I'm not a football coach, but I would say, it's been a tough year for all of us, and it's been a tough year for the team. I mean, they've had to deal with COVID. We, I think, tied a record in the spring with the number of NFL draft picks that we had. 14 players were drafted. So we knew that there was going to be a lot of young players, very talented, but young, inexperienced players in challenging positions, having to step up and take roles that maybe it wouldn't have happened for a year or so. We've also had a number of players and who've decided to opt out, and I totally get it. Safety first, both from COVID and from injury, especially for some of those players with potential lucrative NFL careers ahead of them. So what I would urge everybody to remember is that these are young people. They are 18 to 22-year-olds. They're in a very, very difficult situation. And as some of my board members remind me constantly, whatever happens on the field, we're gonna be there rooting for them, and knowing that tomorrow is going to be better than at least Saturday was.
With the loss of revenue from football this year, what does that do to the other sports on campus and perhaps to the university as a whole?
It poses real challenges. The revenue losses for athletics have been significant. Athletics has a plan to deal with those revenue losses. It has a plan to deal with those revenue losses that hopefully will not affect other sports. And Scott Woodward, Stephanie and I are in contact all the time about their plans and the implementations of those plans. But Jim, it is significant, and hopefully we will get through it. There was a 60 Minutes on last night about schools that have had to cut programs, et cetera. And we hopefully, knock wood, will not have to do that.
How substantial is the loss? And
I think the loss is going to be in the range of about $80 million.
And are there reserve funds that are available?
There are some reserve funds. We'll exhaust those reserve funds. There's been a pay decrease for people making over a certain amount of money. Sadly, there's been some reduction in force. We're looking at other revenues through the Southeast Conference that may provide some temporary financial relief. So those are all the things that are going on. And Jim, I've checked my phone, so I want to supplement an answer to an earlier question that I got. I think it was from Julie. Julie, Winston DeQueer, our general counsel, tells me that we have sent police reports and Title IX reports. We've also sent some background information on policies. And many of them are police reports. So there we are. That's what we've sent to, that's what we have sent to the Hush Blackwell firm. Winston also reminds me that in terms of diversity, today, this is for Liz, the thumbnail sketch. Thank you, Winston. We have a general counsel, Winston DeQueer Jr., a person of color. The dean of our business school is a person of color. The dean of education and human sciences is a person of color. Our band director is a person of color. The new dean of the graduate school brings diversity as well to that role, and on and on and on and on. So Liz, that's a supplement to the thumbnail sketch. I think the thumbnail sketch just became a whole thumb.
I have a question, Jim. Tom, the opportunities for extending and promoting social justice, I think on the list of achievements you gave, I don't think, unless I missed it, the new Innocence Project grant at the Law Center.
John,
Want to comment?
Look at that. I have been away from the Law Center for 11 months. Yeah, we just got a significant grant to create an Innocence Project at the LSU Law Center. First of its kind at LSU, and we're really, really excited about that.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
President Galligan, you talked about hazing quite a bit on this call. I wanted to ask, the Supreme Court denied cert this morning on LSU's case with the Groovers. I just wanted to see what that means for that lawsuit going forward.
Yeah, I haven't, Andrea, I haven't seen the writ denial yet. But what it usually means is that the arguments, they're not procedural, they're substantive arguments, but they're made before trial. That the Supreme Court's decision has resolved those, so then we'll move to the next phase of the litigation, which I take it would be, I'll look for a test from Winston again, would be discovery and possibly litigation or settlement. He's got it. We would likely start discovery, depositions, etc. Thank you.
President Galligan, this is Julie O'Donoghue again.
Hi, Julie.
I'm a little stunned, and I'll just say this, even though we're in a group meeting. I have family that lives in New London, New Hampshire. So sometime we should talk about New London, New Hampshire and Colby Sawyer.
Wow. Okay.
I think you and I are probably the only two people in Baton Rouge that have a connection to that town. So
I think that's probably too. And Julie, we should let everybody know it's a town of about 3,000 people. And many of them are retired folks who bought a house in Boston in the 50s, 60s, or 70s and rode a real estate bubble, and then bought a nice piece of property in a semi-rural sort of New Hampshire town. So that means the population goes from 3,000 steady to about 1,000, 2,000 in the winter and 4,000 in the summer. So Julie, yeah, we should definitely talk about New London.
Yeah. I go there every summer, so we'll talk about that. But this is my question is actually about going back to the athletic department and COVID-19. So going back a few months over the summer, when there was a question about whether football was going to happen at all, Coach Orgeron repeatedly said that he thought that they were implementing safe measures, that everything was safe within the football team's program. Then, like a few weeks later, he said most of the team had COVID. We continue to see players testing positive for COVID and having to quarantine. And of course, games all over the country have been canceled and moved around and whatnot. With all of that information, one, do you have any insight into whether has most of the football team had COVID? Is it only some of them? Because we got conflicting reports on that. But also, do you think that this was safe and that we should have had football this year?
Yeah, Julie, I don't think most of the team ended up having COVID. But I think one of the things that we learned about COVID and behavior was that early on, and they're wonderful young people, but you can't control human behavior. So I think coming back together in July and August, we saw we had a spike on the football team. But I think most of them learned, and it's been mostly manageable from them. One game that we had to postpone, it was more quarantining and contact tracing than it was positive cases. So yes, I think it was safe. The SEC, I meet every week with the SEC presidents and chancellors. Early on, the SEC commissioned a medical task force. One of the key members of that medical task force is Dr. Katie O'Neill from Our Lady of the Lake, and also a faculty member at LSU, Health Sciences New Orleans. I get emotional because she does such a great job. And she's been fabulous. They've been fabulous. We haven't done anything that they didn't advise us to do. The athletes are tested 3 times a week. And so I do think it's safe. And another reason why I think it's safe, and I'm not a scientist, but a lawyer, you're looking for evidence all over the place, is the Big Ten said they weren't going to play because it wasn't safe. What did they end up doing? Playing. The Pac-12 said they weren't going to play because they didn't think it was safe. What did they end up doing? Playing. So I think while there have been cases, I think that for the most part, we figured out how we can do it as safely as possible. So I think a great question. But yes, I think it was safe. Is any of this ideal? No, right? I mean, ideally, there's no pandemic. There's no COVID-19. But I think what we're all trying to do is we're all trying to do the best in a really, really challenging situation. And Julie, if you let me digress for just a second, I've noticed in my inbox two themes from people, from faculty, from staff, from interested alumni, from parents, is there's two themes. And one theme is akin to the one you just articulated. Is it safe to be there at all? That's one theme. It is, I don't want to be in the classroom. I have comorbidities. I'm over 65. Is it safe? Is it safe? Is it safe? And I get it. And then the other theme, and I get this too, is why can't you have 100% classes, in-person classes? Why do you make me wear the mask? Why do you make me? So there's these two very different themes, and I understand both sides of it. And I would say, given the division in our country over many issues like this, it doesn't surprise me that there are those two themes. But we are walking a tightrope between those two views of the world. And in walking that tightrope, what we've tried to be guided by is the best medical advice that we can possibly get, and safety. And because of the uncertainties involved, I think we've leaned mostly a little bit more to the conservative or safety side of things, just because of the risk involved. So I'm sorry for the lecture. I must miss teaching. I'm looking for themes in life now, but thank you.